Japanese fans are angry, and more than anything, they're confused now, but they've come to the clear realization of what cultural appropriation is now that they've seen Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Shadows trailer, where they see their culture being appropriated and placed onto the shoulders of a foreigner. And I think that's the thing people are upset about in Japan, where they're seeing an African lead male character take the role, a prominent role in a franchise that usually caters to the local culture, having a male or female lead from that local culture kind of take the helm and guide it. And this is the opposite of what's happening for Japanese games, and a lot of people are getting angry right now with what they're seeing with the Assassin's Creed Shadows game, where we have a real character, Yasuke, taking the lead role in a Japanese Assassin's Creed game, where in usual cases you usually have a male or a female lead from that culture. And I think this is the discrepancy that we're seeing now when it comes to this game, where a lot of Japanese people are watching this trailer and going, what is happening here? We expected a male lead as you usually do, but that is not the case this time, where they skipped that whole process. And you can see that with some of their past games that were set in Rome, Greek, France, or any other of these locations. They always had someone that corresponded with that culture be the lead character, and I think that was the appropriate way to approach this. But with Japan, there's always been a hunt to diversify and change the cultural makeup of Japan when it comes to Westerners. When they view the overall cultural impact of Japan in general, they want to colonize it in some sort of way and inject it with their own Western ideals. And I think this is the perspective a lot of Japanese people have when it comes to Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed Shadows. It seems like a take to usurp whatever political values that this country has and change it. And I think that's the response we're getting. We even seen recently the President Biden disparage Japan, its ally, for not having diversity within its culture. And I think this is reflective of that overall perspective that we see from westernized nations when it comes to Japan, where they feel like they have to change Japan and Japan is not right in some ways. And I think this is the result that we're seeing in the responses that we're getting from Japanese people. Is like, oh, why are you attacking our culture? And you see it from these comments where people are taking a disparaging look at what is happening with Ubisoft games, where they're saying, for the first time, I understand what cultural appropriation was. And we have continued responses where people are saying, this probably won't sell well in Japan. Everyone has a simple question: why do they use black people in Japanese culture? And of course it goes on, you should change your concept now. This is wrong. Assassin's Creed and Japanese history just don't mix right now. And it says it may have existed in real life, but when a foreigner like this appears in a historical drama like world, it just seems like a gag. The sense of discomfort is like seeing a Japanese person appear at the Boston Tea Party. I think this is a great illustration of how Japanese people are responding to this, especially in a place where Japan was very culturally non-diverse and very exclusionary, and are known for being almost xenophobic when it comes to people from other cultures. And I think this is the thing people are having a hard time with even understanding what Ubisoft is doing. But Ubisoft is a very social progressive company right now. It's more focused on how they inject and change the politics of the gamers than rather catering to the gamers or even placating the cultures that they're making. The designs and the games that we saw from Ubisoft before were at a time where they were more focused on the authenticity of the games that they were developing, but that is not the case anymore. They're more focused on extrapolating and propagandizing their political agenda to the masses. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, and the response from Japan is to universally downvote it and attack this game. And I think this is what we're seeing within the video game industry in a whole, where a lot of people are responding to their overall social progressive agendas with a blatant rejection, but these people do not care about your rejection. It's about the political agenda that they're putting out. You can see it with Ghost of Tsushima, which had universal praise, but a lot of critics hated because it was being praised by a lot of Japanese gamers and Japanese critics, because they praised it for being so authentic to the culture, and they didn't want something authentic to Japanese culture. They wanted something authentic to their political ideas of what Japanese culture should be. And I think we see that reflected where journalists were mad that Japanese people liked Ghost of Tsushima, where it was that xenophobic. It had the cultural identity of Japan back then down very accurately. Now we're getting the opposite reaction, where critics and people that are within the games, journalists, media, praising Assassin's Creed Shadow for ignoring the cultural history of Japan and trying to make it into something of their own. And I think this is the thing that is the discrepancy between the fans and the people and the gamers that are actually looking for something that is culturally authentic. And the complaints from Japanese gamers are just overflowing YouTube, and it's all coming in Japanese. You have to translate it, but the comments are just never ending about the hatred for this game. And I think it's more of the confusion of why westernized culture wants to change Japan so much. And I think this is coming down to the developers within Ubisoft that are more focused on their political agenda, and they don't care about profits. As you can see, that the overall stock price of Ubisoft crashed the next day after the release of this trailer, and I think it's for good reason. They're making something that may fail in the company, over a $200 million game that is more focused on political activism than actually making a game that is in line with their overall popular trend of making games. They're not following the blueprint they've used to develop these Assassin's Creed games, where it's more culturally intact and focused in the countries that they're building into. And I think that is the thing they threw away with this game, and it's not a safe bet to throw away your blueprint of making games in favor of political activism. I think we see that reflected in the people they hired to actually write and develop the game. They hired activists. They hired people that truly don't care about Japanese culture, that don't care about what is happening with the gamers themselves, probably don't play even games at all. They're the new writers, young writers that have no experience actually writing good stories, and they're coming in to develop these games that they really don't care about. And I think that's what we're seeing when you see these type of people that are being hired within the games development sphere. They're all over. They're more like Sweet Baby Inc. acolytes that have this perception that they have to inject their politics in whatever games that they're interacting in. And I think this is an example that we see when we see pronouns in the bio. We already know what we can expect from the game. We can expect something that's more social, more progressive, and more modern. And I think modern gaming with its modern storytelling is a thing that is leading to massive layoffs and the overall destruction of the video game industry, where we're seeing companies like Volition making Saints Row, Luminous making Forspoken, that are trying to follow the modern audience trend, but it's leading to the overall failure and bankruptcy of these companies. And I think Ubisoft is following that trend very closely. And this course, this lead writer is following and used to work with consultancy firms like Sweet Baby Inc. that are known for making games based on political activism. And I think that is a central thing that we're seeing here that is angering people in Japan, is that we're getting this westernized version of Japan, where Japan is not focused on actually Japanese people. It's focused on foreigners and modern social progressive values. And when I say modern social progressive values, I'm talking about the people they bring in to actually supervise and overview this game. I know this is actually pertinent to the actual Japanese culture, but the focus on these LGBTQ relationships being highlighted from the supervisors and the overall people they're bringing in spells doom for this franchise. And I'll go into it a little bit later, maybe in another video, but they hired a consultant that only writes books about the male love relationships in that time frame, and that is the cultural lead advisor. So I'm like, okay, what are we gonna have with Yasuke? They usually like to do this to black, strong male characters. They like to usually make them with some sort of awkward gender preference, and I can see this happening with the female character as well. And I think just whenever I see these type of people in power at a video game company, you know the game is gonna be trash. And I think that is the essential thing people are seeing now with the people that are being hired to actually guide this game. But you tell me what you think about the situation. Do you think Assassin's Creed Shadow will survive this? The Japanese culture is not behind it like it was for Ghost of Tsushima, and I think this may be a kind of critical failure for Ubisoft, and Ubisoft may be in trouble after this game releases. But you tell me what you think about the situation. Like, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.